Hello out there. I'm Anthony Likes, and I'm with my two aces, Raphael Rhodes, Rodre Davis, and we're bringing you another episode of Let Me Say This. I'm open the floor because I know there's a disgruntled Saints fan in here that's questioning certain picks that happened over the draft and a certain player that slid all the way to day 3, 5th round, pick 144 that was projected to at least go amongst the top 6. So let's open the floor about this upcoming draft. I want to say shout out to Cam Ward too. Cam Ward didn't get the recognition he deserved, and also major props to Warren Moon for allowing Cam Ward to unretire the number 1 and let him wear it. Major props to Warren Moon for that. But I want to get you guys' perspective on the draft overall and the whole Shedeur Sanders mishap, debacle, whatever you may want to call it.
You go first, Raphael.
First, I will say that this year's draft, the first round went fairly quick. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Like a lot of teams had their
Except
picks
for the
in
Falcons pick.
Yeah, except for the Falcons.
Like they took the whole
10 minutes. They took the whole 10 minutes. But overall, everybody took about 6.5 minutes to submit their ticket. And one thing I will say is a lot of the picks that I saw were very predictable. As far as quarterback needs and the needs of the team that were being selected. And I think a lot of the picks in the first round, especially, were very good fillers. And I didn't see a failing grade for any of the grades in the draft. I think everybody had at least a B and above, because it cemented a lot of the picks. And I was really happy with that. I thought a lot of it was good. No real big surprises except for Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns doing Cleveland Brown things.
Two quarterbacks.
First off, why I think Shedeur Sanders is a lot more talented than Dylan Gabriel, and I think Shedeur Sanders could have been picked in that spot in the second, third round, where Dylan Gabriel got picked up, and how he drops all the way down to day 3, round 5, pick 144. It's kind of crazy.
You think there was any collusion? You think it was any kind of collusion going on with that?
I've heard some of that. And then I also heard that, and there's been news reports that during the interview process, Shedeur Sanders came off as cocky. He came off as very arrogant, and a lot of teams didn't want that. It almost didn't fit what they were looking for as far as the image of the team. I think that played a little bit of it, but now I'm kind of interested. Now that's the negative part of it. The interesting part of it for me is now you got Shedeur Sanders honestly at a discount.
Yes.
From where you could have gotten him. I mean, you were expected to get him in the first round and pay $7 million a year. Now all you got to do is pay him just under $1 million a year, and no, that's number one. So for the Browns, smart pick on that. The bad part of the Browns is they have They have a 5 quarterback room.
2 of them.
Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders. You still have Deshaun Watson in there. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And Kenny Pickett that they picked up from the Eagles. So who's going to go? I mean, you might have to cut Deshaun and
Watson
take that salary cap.
Yeah, he's not going to play. He's probably going to get put on IR. He can't play this year. If anybody, Kenny Pickett. But my whole thing is, I'm going to speak on both sides, and like the whole cocky confidence thing. Like, come on, man. Don't you want your quarterback, the face of your franchise, you want them to have that confidence. You want them to have that a little swagger to them, a little bit of arrogance to them. You know what I'm saying? A little flame, a little flair. And on the business side of it, sometimes you just got to play the game, man. Like I got this on my chest. Like they taught us, like sometimes you just got to roll with the punches, man. Like you can't try to. You're not bigger than the system, and the NFL will show you that you're not bigger than the shield. Like
And I do like Shedeur's attitude towards that. I think he's taking it in stride. He's taking a good attitude towards it. And I think that puts a little bit of a chip on his shoulder that there's no pressure. I mean, when you're drafted in the first, like Cam Ward's going to come in, which congratulations to Cam Ward, but he's going to come in and he has a lot of pressure on him to turn that franchise around. And that's a lot of pressure. And then even try to put him into playoff contention. Shedeur Sanders isn't coming in with that pressure. He's just got to come in and produce. And let him produce and develop. And I think that makes it better.
No, go ahead. I will say, since '99, since the Browns reincarnated back into the NFL in '99, they have 40 quarterbacks. They're going to have 40 quarterbacks to start. I much rather, honestly, I would want Shedeur Sanders to at least be the 42nd quarterback because I'm pretty sure during the season they're going to make a switch to one of those rookies. So, but I would much rather Shedeur Sanders be quarterback 42 than quarterback 41 because I don't want him to go out there, quote unquote, stink it up.
Yep.
So that. And as far as Tennessee, like with Cam Ward, yeah, there's pressure, but I like what Tennessee did in the draft they drafted some receivers. They got better they played some guys that they lost on defense, like Harold Landry is one of the names they lost to the Patriots. So they did that. They drafted a safety and stuff like that. So it was a lot of teams that made moves. Even Cleveland Browns, like they got running backs. They're trying to, because I think the way Cleveland Brown plays, they're going to lean on their running game and their defense and play action pass. So that's the Stefanski system. So whoever is going to be the quarterback, he's going to be a little bit comfortable. And, so it's not, unless there are situations where you're put in a situation like where the quarterback has to actually make plays in the game. But whoever's the quarterback pretty much probably just going to be a game manager per se, how bad that term is, I guess. But it's pretty much going to be the game manager because, you got Myles Garrett, obviously, with his big contract, wreaking havoc on the other side. And plus they have, good secondary and all that. And then but yeah.
But I will say this too on to add on to it. I did tell you guys last week that Jackson Dart was going to go before Shedeur Sanders.
You did.
And I'm actually one of the surprises that caught me off guard in the first round was the Giants trading up back into the first round to pick him. And I actually like the pick because Russ isn't going to be the future.
No.
Jameis Winston's only there for 1 year. Russ is there for 2, and now you have Jackson Dart that can develop behind a really good established quarterback in Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And learn how to motivate like Jameis Winston. And I think that's a pretty good draft. That's a pretty good quarterback room, if you ask me.
They're also a team that did Abdul Carter with their third pick, and then getting Scatterbo.
I think they're gonna surprise a lot of people. They're gonna surprise a lot of people. And then the other surprise that's gonna segue into Dre saying something about this. I'm sorry, Dre. How does Tyler Show get drafted before a lot of other quarterbacks available, to include Jalen Milroe? Like, it is surprising to me. But go ahead, Dre. I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Let him have the next 10 minutes.
I don't want to break your heart, but
Today I am unhappy. Today I awake and I was saddened. The last 3 days have been the most painful 3 days of my life. I watched my New Orleans Saints plummet into the depths of hell even more than we already are. The Benson family, Mickey Loomis, they don't want to see success. They don't want to see their fans happy. They don't care about what we think. They don't care about what we thought. They don't care about how we feel. The only thing they care about is themselves. But don't let me not say that they didn't fill many of our team needs. They did go out and get a very nice tackle after one of our veteran tacklers just retired last week, which is what I think changed the draft for us overall.
Mm-hmm.
I asked the fellow Saints fan yesterday, do you think that the ramifications of Ryan Ramczyk retiring changed pick 9 for us? Because pick 9 in a lot of drafts was a surefire Shedeur Sanders. When it got to pick 9, as you can go back and see from the live stream, I wasn't very surprised. I was more kind of like, okay, I see the direction that this draft is going with for us. Until day 2. Round 2, pick 40. And then we go and pick a 26-year-old, 7-year veteran with only 1 full season played. And because he's the prototypical size with the nice arm, they want some slack for the pick. If you didn't know, the New Orleans Saints have the worst grade out of every team in the draft because of that pick. We could have went ahead and addressed another team need in Will Johnson and just went ahead and called it a day, which is what I relayed a message to Anthony. Hey, just go pick Will Johnson. If Shedeur was sliding at that point, I kind of got the feeling that he's going to slide a little bit more. There's a third. We have 2 thirds. We have 2 fourths. We even have a 5th that we could have got him at, but nonetheless, we didn't get him. I would be okay with us not getting Shedeur if we don't stink up our second round top 40 pick for somebody that won't start a single game as a New Orleans Saint. The team, the fans, the culture of New Orleans will not rally around. We don't even acknowledge him as a second round pick right now. We feel like we just traded away our pick for Joe Flacco.
I will say also, like when we're talking about our teams and we talk about the New Orleans Saints and Tyler Show. I mean, yeah, he has a good arm, but I mean, did you guys see his throwing on at the combine? I mean,
that blooper, that one blooper,
pretty. Like that's the guy that you went with.
I think ultimately when it comes to that pick, and what troubles me about that pick is, as I said, in 4 years he will be 30. His rookie contract will be up. We are in cap hell as it stands now. At that point, why would we give a 30-year-old maybe quarterback anything past that? So it's a waste of a pick with that just being said.
Yeah, and you had Jalen Milroe, who probably had a better upside available at that time.
And I actually want to talk about how the Browns hit a home run this draft. And although people will really, really say that not picking Shedeur much, much earlier was a dumb idea, and that they did still pick him, and how that ended up 50-50 in the idea of them having him, if he outproduces his spot, which is very, very, he has an upside to do so.
Yes.
It's a phenomenal pick. But what's more important than them getting him in a much, much later spot, addressing a lot of team needs, going to get Myles Garrett some help, going to get some additional skilled players? They got a pick next year from the Jacksonville Jaguars that's more monumental to me than what people saw on the surface level when that trade was made. Do I feel like the Jaguars equally won that trade by getting a two-way player that's probably going to be a star in this NFL for a very long time in Travis Hunter? Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that trade benefited both teams, to be honest. I agree with you on that.
Going
I don't see
out
negative.
from that trade, getting Mason Graham, getting Quishon Judkins, getting Dylan Sampson, and next year's first round pick from Jacksonville, and still maintaining their own in a race that may potentially feature Arch Manning or Nico.
Lenoir Sellers. And I'm glad you brought Nico's name up, because I was going to ask, how does this Shedeur situation impact him in a way?
I think, and I want to start this one off. I think that's going to be a direct line impact. I think the way that the owners can pass around information is the same way the athletic directors in the NCAA level can do so. The mantra, the look, the outlook, the direction of Nico right now is greatly affected by him leaving Tennessee in the middle of spring over contract negotiations, essentially, is going to directly play into what people think about him next year, and they're going to ask him about that incident.
I will say too, though, Nico, unlike Shedeur has a chance to rewrite his story, but Nico has more so, because he's in college right now, because he has the benefit of not even coming out in next year's draft. He can just wait to 2027, so he can kind of, over time, kind of the situation can kind of die down per se. But if it comes to a point where he has a good season at UCLA, he wants to declare for the draft. Then for sure it's definitely gonna be, we're gonna be looking like, okay, where is he? Where is he gonna go? Like,
I will say, I think for Nico, this is where the important part comes in, and this is where it's going to be important for if he decides to go into the draft, or if he decides to stay in college. The biggest thing that's going to have to do is this year, come August when the season starts, you better justify your asking price on why you transferred. And if you can justify that I was getting underpaid and I performed at UCLA in a team that hasn't had a playoff run in years, then maybe you can get owners to go, it makes sense why you were holding out, and it makes sense why you wanted out of there. Because if they weren't going to
bare
pay you for
minimum,
what you were doing,
bare minimum, you have to win the conference.
And another thing, everybody, we all know the big name in next year. We all know who the big name is next year. We all seen what that family did when it came to Eli. Like, no, he's not playing for the Chargers. And guess what? We got college athletes getting paid now. So you don't think for a second that, hey, Arch, just go running back at Texas for another year. You're not playing for that organization. So whoever that team may be, whoever that team that think they're going to tank for Arch, the Manning family is not going to allow him to go into an organization to where they need. Oh yeah, we draft a quarterback. If we're a quarterback away, cool, we get it. But if we need a quarterback, we need a defense, we need a receiver or running game. Like, they're not putting Arch in that situation. They would much rather just, hey, whatever he was getting in NIL, and I'm pretty sure to keep Arch at Texas for another year. I'm pretty sure Texas, the pockets are deep out here. I'm pretty sure they would probably, hey, look, whatever, hey, if he getting paid $4 million, they'll probably double it. If he getting paid $6 million, hey, they'll probably just reset the market with Arch on the college level.
And let's face it, Arch's agents are his uncles and his dad. You know what I'm saying?
And grandpa, exactly.
Grandpa, like they're gonna do things that way too. But at the same time, for Nico specifically, I think if Arch gets a chance to move up in the draft and be a top 5 pick, his family's gonna be like, go take it, play. And if you look at the teams that are possibly in that running, if you look at from last year, and I know it's still early, but Cleveland's not going to turn it around in 1 year. The Jaguars aren't going to turn it around in 1 year. Like, it's going to be a couple years to turn it around. And by the way, next year, if the Jaguars is still in the top 5, wherever they are, and they trade it away to Cleveland, and then Cleveland gets that pick, and they're not comfortable with their quarterback room, Arch Manning's a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to highlight 2 teams that I felt like picked very, very well, that especially when it comes to the Shedeur race per se, that although that neither of these teams picked very great. First of all, the Steelers picked amazing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there's no denying that. Going out and getting your defensive tackle, getting a replacement for Cam Hayward was phenomenal. Getting Jack Sawyer in the 4th round, somebody I really, really desired for the Saints to go get. Getting him in the 4th round is a great steal. Not having a quarterback and getting somebody that they could possibly plug and play this year in Will Howard, which Raphael was very, very instrumental in stating probably should be picked a little bit earlier than what he did in the 6th round. But if they wanted to plug and play Will Howard this year for 17 games, just to see, they could still manage. This is still a Pittsburgh team that's bound on defense and can make things happen on offense that make you go, okay.
Well,
and I can still see that happening with Pittsburgh. And the other team
also,
that I was
Caleb Johnson.
And
Don't forget Caleb
other
Johnson.
team I was going to highlight, yes, they got a good running back in him. The other team I wanted to highlight that did get a quarterback was, like Raphael said, the Giants. I thought they drafted very, very well.
I agree.
Very well.
I thought the Giants turned it around from last year's debacle that was shown on Hard Knocks.
I think, kind of like Anthony said, drafting the Scatterboo, whether you're going to use him or not, he's a hard-nosed runner. He's a gamer. He's somebody that he has a lot of heart. If you saw him when he got drafted, he was in tears. That's real emotion. That's real raw emotion. That's something that you want to see in one of your guys. Like I said, Abdul Carter, that's a home run pick. Like, that's a no-brainer, especially with some of the talent they already got in their front 7.
Number 1. He's number 1 in most drafts if we don't have a Travis Hunter or Cam Ward in front of him. So.
And then, like you said, trading back in and getting Jackson Dart was a great pick, because if not, at round 2, pick 40, we actually would have gotten him. I 100% confidently believe that. But the Giants were smart enough to go ahead and trade up and pick him. I think they knew, if they didn't get another opportunity to go ahead and get him then, that they probably wouldn't get him. But Jackson Dart is somebody that can sit behind Russell this year, learn, get mentored, kind of like a J.J. McCarthy situation, hopefully without the injury, but kind of similar. You can spend that 1st round pick on him. You can take the hit for trading back in, and you can kind of deal with just developing him.
I want to touch on one thing real quick before Anthony we move on, but Dre, what you just said about the Pittsburgh Steelers, I so agree with you, because you're looking at Will Howard excelled in that offense that Ryan Day had at the University of Ohio State.
Chip Kelly, though,
right?
yeah, with Chip Kelly.
With Chip Kelly. And guess where he went? He went to a team that plays a similar style in the Pittsburgh Steelers, with a head coach that is known for making nothing quarterbacks into something. And he's known for putting them in good positions. And I think when you take that and you take Will Howard and you put him in with Mike Tomlin, and then you have Pittsburgh also drafted Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State.
Yes.
Right? And
yeah.
you keep them together and you go, oh my God, now Pittsburgh is actually developing well. And did they draft Jack Sawyer in preparation for losing TJ Watt? Because they haven't paid TJ Watt yet. Right? So you got to look at all that stuff and you go, interesting.
Yeah. Another team I want to highlight too. Everybody know I hate all things Atlanta sports, but the Falcons. I want to highlight the Falcons. Being able to snag James Pierce where he was, because James Pierce really would have been, I guess he had character flaws, but he was a top 10 pick. And getting Jalen Walker from Georgia, a kid from up the road. I want to highlight the Falcons. I think, they're trying to strengthen up their defense. I think that, their offense is pretty solidified. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, and those guys. So their offense is solidified. I think that, they want to be a more balanced, well-rounded team. And the Eagles doing Eagle things, always getting the gems of the draft, the Jahad Campbell, like they keep getting away with fill the roster with Alabama and Georgia players, but it's just like they keep doing it. They do it again. And then obviously my Cowboys, good draft. I give us an A. Yeah. If anything, I'll give us an A. The first pick, I was taken aback because when Tech dropped off the board at 9 to the Panthers, I was like, okay, cool. So there's still some receivers out there we can get, but I'll take Tyler Booker.
One thing I do want to add on for my team, the Dolphins, is I was very happy with our draft because we shored up some of the defensive line. We picked up an offensive lineman that we really needed, and the one nicer thing that we got is we got a quarterback that we didn't have to get in free agency in Quinn Ewers, and I think that was a good pickup because he's gonna get action with Tua Tagovailoa and the way he plays. Like he's gonna
get dizzy again.
He's gonna get showtime. So I was very happy with that pickup. I think the Dolphins had a pretty solid draft. Overall, I was very, very pleased that we addressed a lot of the issues we had, and that puts us in a decent running because I mean we didn't end great last year.
2 questions. Who's more likely to get traded, Tyreek Hill or Jalen Ramsey?
Jalen Ramsey, I think. Jalen Ramsey, I think, is going to be the one to get traded. I think because they mutually agreed on a trade, and Jalen Ramsey is a much older. I think Tyreek Hill put out his little fit of aggravation with the Dolphins going through what they went through, and he had a rough year from beginning when getting pulled over for reckless driving. And it was just a rough year and a downhill year. And I think as long as he gets his mind right, he'll still be a Dolphin. But if you're looking at who's going to get traded first, Jalen Ramsey, and I think Ramsey's age plays a big factor in that.
And with that,
one second. I'm sorry. I just looked at something. Wow. I'm sorry. I just made myself a little more frustrated, but that's okay. I was
stop looking at Tyler Show's name, man.
So, if you were a part of the live stream, or if you go back and watch the live stream, after that pick for Jackson Dart was made, I mentioned to Anthony and the other participants that is a similar trade that we could have made to make that same pick. I'm actually even more frustrated now because we could have made that same trade and got that same pick because the Giants traded up with the Texans and they got a first round pick for a second round pick, a third round pick for the current year, and next year's third round pick, which is the exact same trade that we could have made. What picks did we make with our second and third round picks? Tyler Show, and then a defensive tackle when we have so much depth at defensive tackle that it's almost shameful. So in the first round, we could have gotten our franchise tackle and our franchise quarterback all in one. Congratulations, New York Giants. You are so much better of a franchise than us.
Dre's going through it, man.
Because you want to know why? The Giants gotta make up for letting Saquon walk. So they gotta they putting in overtime. So they gotta make more moves compared to New Orleans Saints, who's probably been in cap hell since, I don't know, maybe my late teens, early 20s. But
That's what I alluded to you today. At least I know with some of the gaps that we filled, we kept all of our picks. We filled a lot of gaps. I know that here pretty soon they're gonna let some people walk away, and we'll at least be out of cap hell.
And speaking of cap hell, there's a specific NBA team that's on their way to Cancun. That's soon to be on their way to Cancun. There's one team already there. Talking about the NBA, look like your guys is Miami Heat. I don't know. I don't know if they get swept. I know we call it gentleman sweep if you're losing 5 games, but I think Heat culture will allow them to at least take 1 game out of this series. I don't see them going down.
I honestly
going down like that. I know it happened before, coming off that bubble season, but
I've talked very, very, very long about what it means to have a defensive anchor or defensive presence out there on the court. If you're Miami culture is very, very real, dependent upon who your leader, your defensive anchor, and defensive presence is, which many people may not understand or like, but is the reason why Udonis Haslem had a spot at the end of the bench for so long. His leadership, his decent defensive presence, and defensive anchorship is the reason why he stayed on that team for so long. We don't have a defense right now. We don't really have too much of an offense right now. But we're at a point now where we're just out there playing basketball for a couple more games, and then we're about to pack it up and take it on home.
Playing for the love of the game at this point.
Hey, honestly, when it comes to the Heat, the way that the season's ending, I mean, you kind of saw the writing on the wall a little bit when you had to get rid of Jimmy Butler and the Jimmy Butler drama that went down this year, and the Heat kind of struggled with that. So, I mean, you look at that and you go, do I still think it's a disappointing season? Not really, because we shouldn't have made the playoffs to begin with, and we're in the playoffs. We got in the play-in.
Sure enough.
Not only that, we're playing the number 1 team that we say are, like, reality, I think they're frauds when it comes after this round. We're going to find out. But, I mean, you still have a team that shouldn't have been there. And they're playing the number 1 seeded team, and they're getting swept. And
getting overmatched, yeah.
You knew anywhere in the East, actually, the only series, there's 2 series in the East that are worth a damn, and that's the Knicks and the Pistons, and the Pacers and the Bucks, and those are the only 2 series right now that are actually worth anything.
If Orlando wins tonight, hey, we might be having something because like I said, Boston with the the coasting Celtics.
I was there, man. I text you guys both last night. I watched the game. Man, another phenomenal game from the Clippers and the Nuggets. The best series on TV right now.
Yes.
I think as of right now, what is it? Is it 3-1 or is it tied up 2-2?
It's 3-1.
Tied up 2-2. It's 2-2.
No, is it 2-2?
It's 2-2. And I think kind of like we alluded to the other day, this is definitely headed towards a 7-game series. Every game is challenging. Last night, the Clippers at home down 20. I watched it. I think in about 8 minutes, I was getting ready to turn the game off, and I said, you know what? I'm feeling the momentum from inside into it. I watched the game, and wow, what a game that ended in basically a missed 3-pointer by Jokic that turned into a tip slam by Aaron Gordon that was a fraction of a second from being counted. The best series on TV, hands down.
Listen, and it's because of the way they play basketball. And then you look at the Clippers and their experience, and we talked about this a little bit a couple episodes ago. When you look at the Clippers and their experience with Kawhi Leonard, with James Harden, and they're playing in the Intuit Dome. When you're playing in LA in the Intuit Dome, where it's kind of stacked on top of each other,
yeah, they make it. They got it like that for a reason.
They make it. Now, I really think that the Clippers can take it away. They can take the series, but it is a good series. And I'm going to go one further. I think because whoever wins, if the Clippers win, they got to take on the Thunder.
Yeah.
And the Thunder's a young team with no experience. And you put the Thunder into that Intuit Dome in Los Angeles against 2
in a
vets.
Playoff atmosphere. Yeah,
I mean, you're talking about that's going to be a series to watch too. I mean, I think that's going to be a an exciting series that can really transform how we look at the playoff seedings. Because that's going to be nobody was counting the Clippers in. They were kind of counting them out. They're looking at the Clippers going against Nikola Jokic and going, Jokic is the Joker. I mean, he's
hell. Even a lot of teams probably had the Clippers like actually playing the Thunder in the first round, depending on the 2 through 8 situation in the West, how it went, how it was going to play out. So
now you look at them and you look how they're playing. I agree with Trey. This is the only series in the entire NBA that's really exciting to watch. But the other two in the East are pretty good.
I think right now the West has more compelling series to watch. I think the Lakers Timberwolves series is amazing too. I think the Rockets Warriors series is really good. The East are the series where I think they're kind of getting overlooked. And I think because there's already 2 sweeps pretty much in the balance, it's kind of taken away from some of the other storylines that's going on in some of the other series. Like the Bucks just ended up winning a game, which when they were down 2-0, it looked like they were headed towards possibly a sweep too. But now that changes things for them. Kind of like Anthony said, the Magic, if they win one more tonight, like what direction are we heading in with their series?
I don't know what it is. The Magic always get a Celtics fits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But as of right now, if we're looking at it as right now, the only series that's really exciting to watch really is
the Clippers and the Nuggets.
The Clippers and the Nuggets. Now, if you look at who's coming up, I agree with you, Dre. I agree with you 100%. If you look at the West, the series in the West are just so much better than what you have in the East. Because I wouldn't even say just Golden State, but Steph Curry, even without Jimmy Butler on the court, is just so exciting to watch. And he's taken that team by the helm. He has been for a decade. And for the better part of the decade, he's been exciting to watch. And it's not stopping. It's not slowing down.
It's not.
And they are playing a pretty good Houston Rockets team that's enveloped in defense.
And like I said, when Ime was with Boston, having Fitz stopping Steph Curry, and now you got these young guys who like, hey, who gonna be that guy to play? Because Dylan Brooks can't hold Steph Curry. We've seen it when he was in Memphis. So
he had last night. Dylan Brooks had 3 fouls in the first quarter, I believe. When I was watching that game, first or second quarter, he already had 3 fouls. So I don't think there's a way that he can keep up with somebody like Steph for another 4 or 5 games.
One thing I do want to touch on, and I know we're talking about the most exciting series in the NBA playoffs right now, but Oklahoma City proved that Oklahoma City belongs where they belong. Number 1. Number 2, hopefully for a speedy recovery for John Morant, because a hip injury is very dangerous and it's very scary. And although I don't agree with some of the antics he's done on the court throughout his years and off the court, man, pray for your speedy recovery because we need to watch you play basketball. I feel bad for you.
Do you think they blow this up? Do you think they make that like, hey, I think we've reached or they run it back with a new head coach and then go from there and see?
I think
they're gonna have to pay Jaren Jackson. They're gonna have to pay Jaren Jackson Jr. whether they like it or not. They're gonna have to pay him.
You got to give it at least one more spin, to see what kind of direction you got. Do you have something that you can work with? Is it worth imploding? And if you didn't know it, Memphis is in the bottom 5 when it comes to salary caps, which means they have plenty of money to spend if they need to bring anybody in. So I don't think there's any reason yet to implode that team when you're still you're a top 8 team with a bottom 5 salary cap. So there's always room to open yourself up for more. And like you said, it goes into Josh's health.
Build around Morant.
Yeah.
You got to build around. You got to build around Morant though. And I would say we'll know what they're going to do with that team come the All-Star break next year.
Yeah, the only other team that has a lower salary cap right now there's only 2 other teams that have a lower salary cap right now that are playoff teams, just like Memphis and kind of the Thunder are in the top 6 for now. But the Magic and the Pistons are also 2 playoff teams, and the Pistons are locked into a game right now that, as we are currently recording, is at halftime. But some of the implications. The reason I bring that up is some of the implications that happens in the playoffs and the directions of a lot of these teams. Just seeing where they are now with a lot of money to spend, a lot of direction going back to Memphis. I don't think you imploded yet. I think
I
you hold this. I think you hold as much of your core together as you can.
and to Dre's point, you look at what the Pistons were last year, and they could have imploded the entire team and just stunk it up again. And look where they're at now, and they're starting to build around their star players. I think Memphis is going to take that as a blueprint
They
because
brought in a winning coach. Well, Monty Williams is a winning coach, but I guess he couldn't get through to them guys. But a guy like JB Bickerstaff, I guess the message
but
is.
but again you're looking at any kind of professional league is a copycat league. The
Yes.
NFL's like that, where the run game is coming back because look what the Eagles did, and now look what we saw in the draft that just happened. A lot of investment was put in the trenches for D-line and O-line, and how do we stop the run?
Attack quarterback, protect quarterback.
Yep, and allow running back to run. So a lot of that was built to build an offensive line to run the ball, and to build a defensive line to stop the run as well. And you're looking at the NBA is going to be the same way. You're going to look at the Grizzlies and go, okay, what did the Pistons do that got them from worst to first? We're not worst. Oh, and by the way, we have the money to spend, just like the Pistons do. So now how can we build off of it? And it's going to be a copycat league. Every league does it. There are those teams that don't follow. In the MLB, it's the Oakland A's or the Las Vegas Athletics now.
Damn Marlins, the Florida Marlins.
The Marlins who want to pay nothing. The Boston
And I'm
Red
glad
Sox
you
who
brought
are
that
paying
up.
nothing.
I'm glad you brought that up because this is a topic that I did want to touch on. I don't like baseball money is different money. I don't think they need a salary cap, but do they need a floor? Do they need it? Hey, you need to spend this much money because, like I said, there's only been like in the last, I want to say at least like 10 years. It's been this pretty much some of the same teams that's been competitive. I wouldn't even say the last 10 years. I'll chop it down and say the last 5. You see some of the same teams, like you see the Astros, for whatever it's worth, flop on. You see the Braves, being competitive. You see the Phillies. You see like the Dodgers. We see what they're doing. And
The
that
Orioles.
team in New York, that one team in New York that wears pinstripes. I won't say their name. You see what they do. So it's just like, and we all know the budget that they have. You know what I'm saying? So like, but then you see teams like the A's who don't even have. I don't even think they barely spend $100 million on.
I say
And
no.
you don't think you need a salary floor?
So
No, and the reason that I say no is because I think when we look at valuation, I think when we look at markets, I think when we look at like how salaries are determined and based on production and everything like that, if you tell a team what their floor is as far as spending, then you kind of confuse some guys as to what their production level actually is. They're paying these guys based on their production. They're paying these guys based on what the numbers say that they do from year to year and what their value is as opposed to some of the top paid players. I don't feel like it's fair that some teams elect not to spend a lot of money, but I also don't feel like it's just worth it to say, hey, change the rubric, make it one value. And then it's almost like NIL, it really then doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't, there's no differentiating who's supposed to be on top and who's supposed to be where does everybody lie? And I think based on spending, as it goes with the Major League Baseball, is exactly how it's supposed to look. Teams that spend the most,
Gonna win. But for whatever
yeah.
it's worth, you can say in all the other major leagues in North America, for whatever it's worth, there's more parity. Even parity came back to the NBA when like Kawhi made his decision to not go to the Lakers and make a big 3, he went to the Clippers. We saw parity start to come back. And now it's like, and then the NBA, with that new cap, with the new how they made the second wave and the apron, they want to keep the parity. Like the NFL, for whatever it's worth, a little bit more even. MLB, like I said, it's about the same 8 teams that you're gonna see competing for a World Series or even a pennant.
Listen, Dre. As much as I agree with you, and I have certain points that I agree with you on, I do have to disagree and say that I think there does need to be a floor. I think if you want to make teams competitive, every MLB team should have at least one star player that's going to bring people into seats. And I think to pay that guy, I mean, it all depends on what you pay them. So I think the floor. Now, I'm not saying the floor has to be pretty high to make sure everybody gets paid top dollar, but you should have at least a floor that allows you to pay top guys and makes you pay at least one top guy per team. That's going to bring fans into seats.
Because
and that's how they're going to make their money.
Because we had the situation before Shohei went to the Dodgers. He was on the Angels with Mike Trout. When Mike Trout's healthy and Shohei's on the team, they might not win games, but guess what? They can sell out the stadium. You know what I'm saying? So situations like that. So yeah, I get that.
Look at Pittsburgh. Look at the Pirates right now. They have one pitcher, Paul Skeens. They have nobody else, and they pay him.
And
Andrew McCutchen, who's pretty much on a farewell run.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't have an issue with them having a floor. What again? My greatest point about there being a floor is that is a trick to a ceiling that says that the ceiling is at a spot that it's not supposed to be at. If you have a baseline for a floor, then the baseline has to be the same. And there's no way to value players at the same if they don't all produce at the same level. There's a top guy for a reason. There's a bottom guy for a reason. And although I don't agree wholeheartedly that if you're in the major leagues and there is somebody that plays third base and there should be a bottom line for what a third baseman gets paid, what happens when you say that this is the money he's supposed to make and his value is way, way down?
Well,
I can name a player.
So I can argue that by saying they have minor leagues.
Yeah.
Right, and they have all these different areas of the leagues that they can place them down into, and they have that contract flexibility that we signed you to a contract. Like you're signed to the Baltimore Orioles, maybe the farm league, but you're signed to the Baltimore Orioles, and we'll call you up when we need you. But to build your value, we're going to put you in the farm league for 10 games. Yeah. So I think a floor in baseball is actually one of the leagues that it works. A floor in baseball works because if you're paying them less than what their valued is, you just bump them down to the farm league. Yeah. And then you can bump them up when their value down there gets better, and then you can develop them. So I think a floor actually works in baseball because they have, and it actually works in hockey too, because you have those farm leagues and you have those minor leagues that you can bump it up to.
So as like a formality in a closing, I guess a closing-esque question to you guys in regards to this topic. Can you name me at least two players on the Marlins that have the same value as two players on the Dodgers?
Last Marlins player I know that was of any relevance was Giancarlo Stanton, and we see where he's at. Jazz Chisholm, guess where he's also at. So
and they're getting paid. And that's my only, and that's and again, that's my only argument with that is that if the White Sox are the second least valued team as far as salary cap. So are there two players on the White Sox that to the second highest team in the Mets? Are there two players on the White Sox that are comparable to two players on the Mets right now?
No.
And
also
go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, because I was about to say, we see somebody and you brought up we brought up the A's and now the White Sox. Those are two teams that A's are getting a new stadium in Vegas. The White Sox want a new stadium. So I feel like that kind of plays a part into why these owners are acting the way that they're acting too, because hey, I put my team in a new facility, and then guess what? Obviously we need to put butts and seats in these new stadiums. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to put out the best talent. We're going to roll out that best talent. And that's why Oakland lost all their teams.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Oakland won't pay. Oakland won't pay.
Oakland won't pay anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But look what happened when they moved to Vegas.
And that's my only and I'm not disagreeing with you guys that these guys don't deserve to get paid based on being in the major leagues. My only point is I see it the same way in the Major League Baseball as I do in basketball, as I do in football, as I do in soccer or any other sport. These guys and gals are being paid on their value, on their production, on the numbers. We live in a world now where advanced stats mean more than what we see with the eye test.
Moneyball, the movie Moneyball covered. Yeah, but go ahead.
But at the same time, it's to Dre, to your point, and I think what you're trying to say is it's a what have you done for me lately fan base, and it's a what have you done for me lately league. And I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I just think a floor works because you have all these different farm leagues. You have single A, double A, triple A. In the NBA, you have the G League. You know,
Mhm.
but you know, you have one farm league. In the NHL and the MLB, you have multiple different leagues
You got multiple leagues, yeah.
that you can kind of push them through. And that's, I mean, I agree with you. I see your point. I do see your point, and I agree with you. My just belief, and this is the beauty part about sports, right? We can all believe everything different.
Yeah.
We're not the owners, though. We're
Yeah.
not the owners of the team.
Yeah.
But I just believe that a floor, if you're playing in the majors, if you're at the dance, maybe there's a little bit of value for you. And it's almost an incentive for the players to get better and not miss practice and train a little better, because show your value.
Yeah.
Play at your value. We expect your value here. And I think that's another thing. There's lacking expectation. If I expect your value to be $250,000 a year, and you're playing and you're batting just
under the
under
Mendoza
1,000,
line.
yeah, and you're batting under 1,000, and you're not worth that 250,000. Well, guess what, dude? You're going down to the farm league, and I called you up for a reason.
Yeah.
You know. So I mean, I agree. I see what you're saying, but I also see that, like, a lot of these teams, they're building new stadiums and they want to keep the teams in the market, but you got to put a big player in there to put the team.
You got to
in a
promote
good
your
position.
brand. You got to promote your brand. You can't promote your brand with just average Joes. Like the Las Vegas A's, I'm pretty sure I think they're moving in that stadium in 27 or 28. When
Yep.
that stadium's done, it's going to be at least like 2 known players that play for that team. They're not going to roll that team out in that new stadium and not have a guy that, like,
You'll see a big
we not
signing
paid
next
to
year.
see.
Towards.
Yeah.
You'll see a
Somebody
big
will
signing
look
next year.
towards. Yeah.
And you know what? And you know who to look for? I'll be honest with you. Look for like a Bryce Harper, who's from Las Vegas, on his farewell tour. Why not close it out in your hometown?
In your hometown, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's an expansion team in your hometown. Bryce Harper is from Las Vegas, Nevada. He went to high school in Las Vegas. He built baseball stadiums for high schools in Las Vegas for the high school he played at, Las Vegas High School. So, I mean, you're looking at, he's, that's a big name to sign.
Yeah. So I can agree with that, and I actually do like that. I'm gonna leave it for the viewers. Hey, viewers, if the baseball viewers or whomever, does the MLB need a floor? I don't know, they don't need a ceiling, but do they need a floor in the MLB? And I'll leave it with that. And this is it. And like to thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe, and watch out for another episode of Let Me Say This. Peace.